Healing in Pathfinder 2e. If you clicked on this video just because you wanted a strong build, I have some build overviews at the end of the video, and I also have a full 1 through 8 sample build in the description down below. You can go ahead and just skip to those. But I think that you'll get a lot more value from hearing the reasonings behind all that stuff, which will be, well, the first half of this video, where I introduce the different types of healing and when you would want to use them, why each thing could be useful, and that'll give you context for why those builds are the way they are. Because I'm going to, in those build guides, assume that you have the information from the first half of the video. So with that, let's just go ahead and get into it. And I'm going to split healing into two major sections. You have in combat and out of combat healing. So out of combat healing is due to Pathfinder 2e's encounter building math, expecting you to walk into a lot of fights with full or near full HP. And so the ability to heal out of combat is actually very important for your long-term success in this game. And in combat healing should be pretty obvious why that one is good. If somebody is low health in combat and they're at risk of going down, you can prevent them from going down. If somebody's knocked down Pathfinder 2, there is a laundry list of downsides that I'm probably putting up on screen right now. You can read through it yourself, but for most of you that have played this game a lot, you would know going down hurts. So usually you want your healing to take somebody that is low and put them where they're not at risk of going down as much. And so let's talk about ways that a character can heal. And let's start with the easiest way that any character can get into healing, and that is via the medicine skill and the treat wounds activity. Treat wounds takes 10 minutes, so it is therefore in the out of combat section of activities because, well, 1 minute is 10 rounds, so 10 minutes is 100 rounds, and if you have 100 rounds where you can do nothing until that final round, you've already won that fight so completely convincingly that it's still out of combat healing. This is an out of combat healing ability, and it lets you make a medicine check and heal somebody. And you can choose to roll at a harder DC if you have that degree of training to then try and heal even more. And there are many guides on when you should roll at those higher DCs, or when you should use Assurance, which is a skill feat that lets you skip rolling altogether, and when you should use all those. There are many debates on that. I'm going to put some information down in the description below. The general takeaway is Assurance is worth it as a skill feat, but it isn't completely, utterly game-changing, and generally you want to be able to hit that DC 75% of the time before you start attempting to roll for it. That's the general rule of thumb that I say will guide you on the right path for 95% of situations. There are some times where you might want just like a little bit of super consistent healing, so you might choose to go down one step, but anyway, that table says everything you need to know. This does require a healer's toolkit, which means at level 1, you are spending 5 gold, so a third of your character's gold budget, to buy a healer's toolkit. If you're playing with the same party over the course of a longer adventure, you can ask everybody to pitch into the healer's toolkit because everybody is going to benefit from you having it. And that healer's toolkit will also give you access to battle medicine via the medicine skill, which is just a skill feat that lets you try and treat wound somebody in combat. Now, you will need an open hand for this due to the healer's toolkit requiring an open hand, but this is a way for you to bring the medicine skill's healing into combats. It is of course melee reach only because you need to be able to, touch them to slap the bandage on their forehead and tell them it's going to be okay, but this is a strong way to apply healing to stuff. And you could of course further augment this by going to the medic archetype, which gives you an extra skill bump into medicine, which is nice. It makes your battle medicines heal more if you are taking those harder DCs, and it lets you ignore the temporary immunity people normally get to battle medicine. Because battle medicine is normally only going to be a once per day per target. So if you have a party of 4 people, including yourself, you can battle medicine each of those members once, including yourself, for a total of 4 battle medicines a day. With medic, you can ignore that restriction and heal one person twice with battle medicine. which is pretty nice. And once you get to Mastered Medicine, Medic will even let you ignore that restriction once per hour. You then can get a lot more battle medicines out. And there's level 4 feat in Medic, which is really why the archetype is famous, called Doctor's Visitation. And you can only use one Flourish action a round, and that's what the Flourish trait does, but then the rest of the action is pretty simple. You stride, and then you battle medicine somebody. And that's just generally pretty useful. And there aren't that many classes that have direct synergy with battle medicine. People will point to something like the Chirurgeon Alchemist, and their ability to replace all medicine checks with crafting as a very good medic, because they naturally have free hand, and etc, etc. But I think all that pales in comparison to Investigator, which is one of the 3 sample builds I've down in the description. The reason to take Investigator is because you get access to Forensic Medicine as a subclass. And so, with that methodology, you naturally have your battle medicine only make people immune for an hour at a time. So your battle medicine becomes much more available, and your battle medicine gets bonus healing equal to your level. So that's a lot of extra healing that then stacks with Medic, that then stacks with the additional uses you'd get from Medic. Investigator doesn't normally have Flourish activities, so therefore, you also get the action cheating from Medic, and it just combines really nicely into a non-magical healer that can put out really large healing numbers. And because you have a high medicine, and a bunch of extra skill feats for being Investigator, you can naturally get all the out-of-combat healing feats, all the in-combat healing feats, and have a very strong build at the end of it. There are more details to this build, but that is the core concept of why it makes such a strong healer. But I said this is the strongest non-magical healer. Of course, when we're looking at magical burst healing, we are looking at stuff like the Heal spell. And I guess also Soothe, technically. Soothe is the occultist version of healing. It doesn't have the same output as Heal, which is available to Divine and Primal casters, though. And Heal is considered to be the big healing spell in this system. It is actually 3 different spells in a trench coat. And it has a 1-action version, which is just simply a d8 of healing per spell rank, which is fine, I guess. It's not great. There's a 2-action one, which gives you +8 at the end if you're using healing, and turns Heal to a 30-foot range spell. Because all the medicine stuff, that requires range touch. The Heal spell actually lets you do stuff from range. And when you do it for 3 actions, you don't get that +8 anymore, but it becomes a massive area of effect, and does heal everybody in it, no matter what. But hey, if it happens to hit undead, undead are harmed by vitality, so heal would actually damage undead, which is nice. So if you have a campaign with a lot of undead around, getting somebody with a very potent ability to spam the heal spell is very valuable. And so out of the casters that can get heal, you might immediately gravitate towards somebody that has more spell slots, and for good reason. Classes like Sorcerer and Oracle can both get heal as a signature spell as a spontaneous caster, so all of their spell slots can be heal if they want. And Sorcerer even has, in the remaster, a class feature that increases the healing of a spell that comes from a Sorcerer spell slot. So Sorcerer healers can be very good. And Oracles have a feat that lets them heal with an ability that isn't tied to spell slots, so that can also be pretty nice. But I think that the best caster healer is still the Cleric going for a heal font. And the reason I like heal font Cleric so much is it gives you extra max rank spell slots of heal. And so with those extra max rank spell slots, you are going to be able to prep whatever you want in the rest of your spells as a prepared caster, so you can get the maximum amount of versatility that you want in those lower level slots. You don't really need to invest in healing abilities after you have all that healing there. And so you can put the rest of your character's resource expenditure in all their spells and have all of them be useful on other things. And I also think that Cleric being 8 HP, having pretty strong feats, and just a bunch of other stuff makes Cleric a very potent class. And so I really like Cleric. If you want to see more details on how I like to build Clerics, I have a build guide for the strongest character in Pathfinder 2e. That is a Cleric build guide. So I'm just going to put that in the iCard up here somewhere, and you'll be able to see it. So go ahead and watch that video once you're done with this one, if you want to know more details on how Cleric builds operate. But of course, Medicine doesn't have a monopoly on out-of-combat healing, because you have stuff like focus spells. There are other abilities that can heal on a cooldown. And so, Lay on Hands from Champion is considered to be a classical example, where you can simply just heal somebody with a range of touch for just 6 hit points per spell rank. And, you know, that's pretty good. So at level 20, it's healing for 60, level 1 it heals for 6, perfectly acceptable. And you can then just refocus for 10 minutes, Lay on Hands again. Very nice. And now, a bunch of classes will get these types of abilities. I know that Witch has one that can technically heal for 8 via its Lesson of Life feat, which gives it the Life Boost Hex, which then gives fast healing, which then heals. I know. But there are a lot of classes that just randomly have an ability that has a 10-minute cooldown and just does healing. It's like Alchemist with Chirurgeon, they can make their items midday that can heal somebody and then also have the medic stuff going on. Bard has a focus spell from a feat, Champion has a focus spell from subclass, etc, etc, etc. Just kind of look through your class to see if they have healing abilities. And out of the classes that have auxiliary healing abilities, Kineticist can assemble the most of them in a single build, because they have abilities like Ocean's Balm, which makes somebody immune to Ocean's Balm specifically for the next 10 minutes. But they also have stuff like Fresh Produce, which, mind you, is going to be less efficient in combat because Ocean's Balm is just one action, the healing automatically happens. Fresh Produce requires you to spend an action to create something, and then the target needs to have an open hand, so that way they can have it in their hand, then they need to spend an action eating, so it's like 2 actions. But out of combat, it still heals every 10 minutes. So Fresh Produce is still really helping your healing out of combat, and because Fresh Produce and Ocean's Balm actually have a cooldown per person, out of combat healing, your party's full health in like 20 minutes. It is absurd, quite frankly. And you don't really need to invest in medicine to be a healer as a Kineticist because of that. But I'd be remiss if I talked about Kineticist mitigating and stopping damage, and not bring up Timber Sentinel, which lets them cast the Protector Tree spell, which will just eat enemy attacks. Because if the enemy decides to ignore this tree and hit your allies, they're going to need to try and hit or crit your ally, and then the Protector Tree is going to soak all that damage. But, you know, the target can still attack this 10 AC tree, but the thing about this 10 AC tree is that if you don't take it out in one shot, it's still going to absorb damage, and it's still going to make enemies waste actions dealing with it. And if they don't have a reach weapon, and you have a fighter with Reactive Strike, you can position the Protector Tree that can be very obnoxious for the enemy to get to, so that they're either going to need to fight through all this extra HP on your fighter, or burn actions moving towards Protector Tree, and dealing with the Protector Tree, when you can just set up another one, because this is an at-will ability. So Kineticist has some really absurd protection and healing abilities, particularly in the out-of-combat zone of the game, but Protector Tree makes them a really good protector in combat. And so, now we're going to transition into talking about the exact builds. So, here we are in Path Builder to just go quickly talk about all of the different healer builds I've alluded to throughout this video. So, I will note that I'm building all of these as humans because human is a very basic ancestry, and you can do a lot of stuff with human. And you can build these types of ideas with any ancestry, you just will need to change some of the specifics. But humans are basically going to be allowed in every setting, no matter what you're doing. And nobody's going to look at you weird for picking human. They might call you a power gaming sweaty tryhard, but hey, you're a healer. And if they decide to make fun of you, you can just let them fall, and then let them stay fallen, because that's what they deserve. So with that, let's get into these builds. So the Investigator is the first one that we really talked about, so that's where we're going to get started. I'm going criminal background, but you can go for any background that gives either int or dex as a background skill, because those are the things that we are going to try and maximize first at level 1. And generally, we're just going to be grabbing a bunch of useful stuff. So for human, we just get some extra move speed, very boring. And natural ambition is giving us trap finder, which is just nice to have. But what's really good in Investigator is its class features and known weakness. I think that if you're building an Investigator without known weakness, you're going to have a much harder time than normal. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's first work through how Investigator's kit functions before we talk about how it functions as a healer. So Investigator's main ability is Devise a Stratagem. This lets you pre-roll an attack against an enemy. So you point at an enemy, spend an action, you roll a d20. Note, rolling this d20 is not an attack. You're just thinking really hard about attacking. And then if you were to attack that foe, you take the result of that d20. And also, if you then hit the enemy with that attack roll, you get to do some extra damage for your trouble, and you get to use your int for accuracy. Very nice. And of course, if you low roll, you can use Skill Stratagem, which is just like a consolation prize that makes you better at doing some skill actions. It's not great, but hey, consolation prize. Or you can just simply strike a different target at full accuracy. Or you can spend actions doing other stuff, such as healing. But if Devise a Stratagem was just one action all the time, it'd be a little underwhelming. So thankfully, we have Pursue a Lead, which is a lot of words, as you can see on the side of my screen, but it can be summarized pretty succinctly. You pick a question or a thing you're trying to investigate. And then, what you do when you are investigating that thing, if you believe that a creature could give you answers for your thing, you get to free action Devise a Stratagem targeting them. So that thing that was previously an action is now free action. And every time you devise a stratagem, you are still getting a free recall knowledge check because of known weakness. So, with all of this going on, you're going to have a pretty good time of, I get to do a little bit chip damage, and I'm getting to recall knowledge every single round for basically free. But that's not all, because we still have our subclass to talk about, and that's Forensic Medicine, which, if you remember from way earlier in the video, gives you bonus healing on Battle Medicine, and also more use of Battle Medicine because you reduce the time they're immune. So this, very, very powerful stuff. But, you know, if that was the only way that this build would heal, it'd be pretty underwhelming. So thankfully it stacks with Medic Dedication, both in terms of the extra healing and the extra uses of Battle Medicine that you gain access to. So naturally, this is a good thing. Medic and Investigator both give some extra skills, so you can immediately start going to those Expert Medicine skill feats if you wanted to. If you're feeling inconsistent, because Medic gives you this spike up to Expert early, you can actually just take Assurance Medicine at level 2 and have Assurance trained Battle Medicine really easily, because we are kind of on a lower Wisdom, but Assurance doesn't improve your consistency and your averages that much, where if you are the only healer in your group, having continual recovery to be able to make sure you are able to heal your party to full health out of combat is more valuable, in my opinion. So that's what I would prioritize. And then here I'd grab Ward Medic because, well, it lets you treat wounds on more people, which is more better. Because more healing is best healing. And so thus I'm just shoving Assurance Medicine down to level 4. Doctor's Visitation is also from Medic Archetype and is coming in at level 4. And this lets you, as one action, which you can only do once per round due to the Flourish trait, do Stride and then Battle Medicine. This means, starting at level 4, a turn for your Investigator can be free action, devise a stratagem, roll d20, see if that hits them. Then in addition, GM, roll me a recall knowledge check. Okay, 3 action over. Now I'm going to Doctor's Visitation, walk over there, heal myself with Battle Medicine. And then I'm going to ignore my own immunity to Battle Medicine to Battle Medicine myself again. And then I'm going to shoot that guy with the Devise a Stratagem roll that I had earlier. You can do so much with the Investigator kit in terms of healing, in terms of the little bits of chip damage, in terms of the information you gain, that it becomes a very powerful build in just about any party composition. If you want a healer and you don't want to go the traditional magical routes, this is how you do it. This is the thing that does it. Now, Chirurgeon Alchemist can do some similar stuff with turning crafting into the medicine skill and just getting a bunch of the medic stuff, because they also naturally like to have free hands. Because, you know, bows are 1+ handed, which means you can have the bow at the ready, and then you're technically having a free hand until the moment you draw an arrow and fire. So, bow in this hand, free hand here to go battle medicine somebody. It works. It's very fun. Now we've kind of gotten all the important medicine skill feats, so I like to just grab additional lores in creature types that you normally can't recall knowledge about using Int. Because, you know, undead, fiends, fae, plants, beasts, animals, all those types of things normally are related to the wisdom recall knowledge skills being nature and religion. So I like to grab additional lore for those groups on my intelligence characters, so I can use my higher mental stat to recall knowledge about those types of creatures. And because we are Investigator, we are recall knowledging a lot. So therefore, having these extra lore skills becomes far more valuable on this character specifically. So this is how I'd recommend dumping a lot of skill feats. If you don't have something you're excited to take, get excited about additional lores, because they are actually really strong on intelligence characters. But we don't take another additional lore at level 6 because we take Treat Condition from the Medic Archetype. And this then solves the special requirement of all archetypes, where you are not allowed to take another dedication feat until you've already taken 2 feats from all of the archetypes you currently have open. So we took Doctor's Visitation from Medic. Now we've taken Treat Condition. Hey, that's 2 feats. So now we can pick up another archetype, which will be Eldritch Archer. And Eldritch Archer gives us a weirder version of Spell Strike, which for 3 actions lets us combine an attack roll spell and a bow strike at the same time. And hey, we're already using a bow, so that's half the equation solved. But it would really suck to miss this 3-action attack, and I can't just say hero point if you miss, because, well, you run out of hero points very quickly with that kind of mindset. Although, you totally can just hero point it. What your goal is you should be playing your minigame up at the top of the Investigator's base class features with Pursue a Lead to get access to free action Devise a Stratagem. Because if you do that, you can then re-roll the Devise a Stratagem, know, okay, I'm hitting and/or critting, and just launch a 3-action activity, Eldritch Shot, and bang! Right with an attack roll spell. Great time. And then later on, you can of course get something like Enchanting Shot, which is just like a smaller version that does some mental damage. And this one is 2 actions, so you're more easily able to fit it in while still doing your Doctor's Visitation, all that kind of important stuff. But this is fundamentally what you're looking to do on the Investigator. In terms of itemization, other than your fundamental runes, I'd really only recommend like Healer's Gloves, because yeah, they give you a little bit of extra healing, but also that +1 to all medicine checks is very nice. Because expanded Healer's tools don't give you that bonus to battle medicine, and on Medic Investigator, Medic really pushes you to try these higher DCs because it gives you that bonus healing. So it can be nice to have the option to roll for it and not have your bonus be that bad. Even though a lot of times you are just going to be trying to Assurance. it's nice to just have that little bit of healing, that little bit of bigger number to be able to try and hit that expert DC a little bit earlier, try and maybe hit that master DC a little bit earlier. Anyway, generally, this is how I like to build my investigators. Moving on to Kineticist. So for this Kineticist, I am very much using every part of what human gives me, because I am grabbing stuff like armor proficiency, which lets me be a full strength Kineticist while maintaining a lot of class feats. I'm also getting natural ambition to get even more Kineticist class feats, and we are going to use every single Kineticist feat we can get our hands on. We are not going to be archetyping into medic, because quite frankly, we don't need it as Kineticist. We don't have any special synergy with it like the Investigator did. It can still be worth it, but I think we have some better stuff we can be doing. So, we are going to be going for the field medic background, partially because it lets us boost Constitution, and mostly because it gives us battle medicine. And battle medicine is a very strong feat, because as a Kineticist, we are going to have a free hand a lot of the time because we need it for all of our impulses. And a Kineticist without impulses is like playing a wizard without a spellbook. You just shouldn't. So, with that, we are playing a strength Kineticist. This means that we are going to be looking to do melee elemental blast because we get to add our full strength modifier to that damage. And if we expand to 2 actions, we also get to add con mod, so we can do pretty decent damage. And with weapon infusion, we can actually make our elemental blast thrown, which lets us add our strength modifier even to ranged elemental blast, or we can make these ranged elemental blasts a really long range. So this lets us basically take the role of an archer where we can threaten the flying creatures 200 feet away. Very, very nice. But that's fundamentally what we're getting from human. Then from Kineticist itself, we are going to be looking at Ocean's Balm as our main healing ability, and this is just simply going to heal somebody for 1d8 for every few Kineticist levels you have, so like 1d8 at level 1, 2d8 at level 2, 3d8 at level 5, etc, etc, and it will keep on scaling like that. And you can do this on each target once per 10 minutes, so you can heal the entire party, wait 10 minutes, heal the entire party, wait 10 minutes, and you're good to go. And Ocean's Balm is fully off cooldown. And while you're waiting for Ocean's Balm, you might as well treat wounds, because we do have medicine trained, so you might as well just go for it. Yeah, it's kind of gross. So you do get to have the out-of-combat healing just from Ocean's Balming repeatedly, and this, in terms of expected value in a party, far outperforms treat wounds at most levels. Like, just by itself. It's kind of gross. If you have enough people damaged, Ocean's Balm is super efficient out-of-combat healing. And we're not actually grabbing fresh produce that early, which is the wood element's main healing ability. Instead, we are going to grab Timber Sentinel, because Timber Sentinel is the funny tree ability. And the funny tree ability makes it so nobody in your party takes damage in the first place. Because that's what healing means. It means people stay alive, and Timber Sentinel keeps people alive. I'm sure people in the comments down below can comment a funny Timber Sentinel story of their boss not being able to play the game because they're just kept on being that tree there that eats all of their damage. And then, if the tree dies, the Kineticist just summons another tree on the next turn because this doesn't have any cooldown for some reason, and it's very well balanced. Yeah, no, it's a great time, because each tree you summon will be eating about 10 damage per spell rank, and I'm saying about because enemies can target that tree directly, and they are more likely to crit that tree. So it's somewhere between 5 to 10 HP per spell rank is about as much as it will be eating. And that's still pretty good for 2 actions from a half-decent range. So, for an at-will ability, this is kind of absurd. And it lets you preemptively set something up to protect your allies, where Winter's Clutch lets you preemptively do a big area damage attack. Well, it's not that big of damage, but you do an area damage attack. It has area. It does damage. And it also makes difficult terrain. which may give your party more time to set up and do other fun things in that regard. And so at level 2, we're grabbing Fresh Produce, which further bolsters our out-of-combat healing, and we're going to grab Assurance Medicine as the skill feat, because then at level 3, we will be able to Assurance the trained DC of Treat Wounds and Battle Medicine. So Battle Medicine becomes another very consistent way for us to basically double up on Ocean's Balm. And yeah, Battle Medicine has that daily cooldown instead of that 10 minutes cooldown, but if somebody is on the ground and you've already Ocean's Balmed them, Battle Medicine will get them back up. And sometimes that's just what you need. So in any case, because we are planning to Assurance Medicine basically every time we are trying to Treat Wounds or Battle Medicine, because we're not really using it for massive big heals, and we don't need to grab the Expert Medicine skill feats because, you know, our out-of-combat healing is already so absurd just from being Kineticist. We don't really need to invest more in medicine to be an incredible healer. So I say invest more in athletics, because that'll let you go for trips, go for grapples, and along with your tree, you're just going to make it so nobody takes damage, ever, and if they do take damage, you just Ocean's Balm them. Easy enough. I'd say Kineticist is a very good second healer, where it doesn't do the big burst healing you'd get from the caster or from the investigator, but just keeps everybody fully topped off, denies a bunch of damage, and it can work as a primary healer and an off main tank and like a bunch of other stuff. That's really where the Kineticist gets its value. But I'd recommend getting items to boost athletics because, you know, item bonuses will not help you with assurancing your medicine checks. That's the only way you're doing medicine checks, so yep. Athletics is one of the most viable skills in combat because it lets you do trips, lets you do grapples. All very fun stuff. And with trips and grapples, you can actually do like trip plus I summon a tree, so they need to spend an action standing, an action attacking the tree, and then they only have one action left. It's kind of disgusting how much action denial you can produce from just yourself. So at level 4, I say pick up Safe Elements, because it sets up for you to get Winter Sleet and get into the stance without it affecting your allies. So that, you know, anybody that moves on the ice has to make acrobatics or reflex save against your impulse DC -2. And if they fail this thing, they fall. They just go prone, which is hilarious, right? Right? Also, if you manage to crit them with your water blast while they're on the ice, they just become slowed, which is pretty good. Because now you're stacking more action denial on top of your action denial from them getting damage soaked by a tree, on top of the action denial of you grappling or tripping them. This is just a way to make sure nobody's allowed to play the game except your team, and that's a very strong way to play. So that's where I'm looking at this, and I'm expanding the portal, because the skill junction for water gives you status bonuses to athletics, which will help you with your grappling, help you with your tripping. And level 6, I'm just grabbing another healing ability. It doesn't really matter at this point, it's just kind of pick your favorites. Dash of Herbs can also be a fun healing ability, but I don't really think we need it. So I'm getting the big area healing, because I think that might be more useful in a combat. Then there's Sanguine Violet Root, which just basically lets you do some damage with a basic save. And then, you just give temp HP to your whole party, because, you know, you didn't give your party enough survivability yet. And this is roughly how I'd build Kineticist to be a healer. Yes, it is a grappler. But like, that's how I'd approach this. And for the Cleric, this is a build that I actually have a full 40-minute guide on my channel, which I'm probably just going to put the iCard up there. It's called my strongest build of all time, because it kind of is. Because it lets you use the Might Domain spell, Athletic Rush, to spike above even like normal full martial characters for athletics actions for that first round of combat. That's so potent. You get access to the Divine list, you have all the Divine buffs like Bless, and because you are a Cleric, you have the Font, which gives you a bunch of heals even at level 1, so you are outputting more burst healing than anybody else can manage, while being a Wisdom key ability score class, So you have access to very powerful battle medicines, which you can get from your background, so you have it right at level 1. And you can then just do whatever you want. I personally go with Wrestler dedication, because I really like having Combat Grab as an option to get the grab condition on enemies with a high fort DC. At level 2, I pick up Assurance Athletics. It really is a pick your favorite for these skill feats. I'm going to say to avoid Assurance Medicine on characters that have very high wisdoms. Simply because, like, your expected value is so good without Assurance Medicine that I don't think it's worth the pickup. But you may value not getting screwed over by nat 1s more than I do. So you can take Assurance Medicine, but I think if you're that desperate and you need somebody to get healed that bad, you literally have spell slots that are guaranteed healing. So I don't think you have much of an excuse on that regard. At level 3, I then get Medicine up to Expert because Wrestler moved my Athletics to Expert. And this then allows you to pick up all the important medicine skill feats. At level 6, I like picking up Selective Energy, just because no matter what I'm fighting, I can throw out a 3-action heal, and I can say, none of the enemies are getting healed. Only my friends are. Which lets you just be a really annoying healer. Again, you have the battle medicine if somebody just needs a little bit of pick-me-up. You have the 2-action heals. You're very often going to be tripping, grappling, doing all the athletic stuff. You have the full Divine spell list behind you. And you have some sauce. But this is the rough idea for how I build the clerics, and for more details on this build, I suggest just watching the guide I've already made for this, because it goes over a lot of detail for what types of things you would do for this character. So, with that, I'm going to call it a video. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one. Peace!